A new baby arrives, and the research finds there's no universal crisis, but huge differences in how kids cope. Okay, if you're expecting right now, or maybe you're currently sleep deprived, knee deep in the chaotic early days of bringing home baby number two, I want you to take a deep breath. Seriously, listen to that finding again. Lower those shoulders. The widely feared inevitable sibling crisis, the one literally everyone warns you about, the science says it simply isn't real. You and your family are absolutely not doomed to a miserable transition.
Welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled to guide you through this today. We're looking at new sibling, no crisis, and exactly how a firstborn child adjusts when a new baby enters the picture. Our goal here is pretty straightforward, honestly. We're going to use rigorous developmental science to completely replace all that parental guilt with clear, actionable facts. Let's look at what the leading research actually says about sibling transitions so you can just feel confident and prepared. So why do some kids regress while others are completely fine? Because, well, while there's no universal crisis, we definitely see a massive variety in how kids react. I mean, you've probably heard the stories, right? Why does one toddler barely even blink while another suddenly demands a bottle or throws an absolute meltdown just because you gave them the blue cup instead of the red one? What actually makes the difference? That's the exact puzzle developmental psychologists have been working to solve. To answer that, we have to look at the data. Enter researcher Brenda Volling. In a landmark 2012 review, she analyzed about 30 major studies. Now, this review is basically considered the definitive synthesis on the transition to siblinghood. Volling looked at all this data, and her headline finding was crystal clear. There is absolutely no empirical evidence for a universal developmental crisis when a new baby arrives. Period. The myth of this inevitable sibling crisis just spread like wildfire in our culture. But the data from these 30 studies shows us that outcomes are highly individual. Most firstborns, they actually adjust just fine. So the research reveals two main paths here. On one side, we've got smooth adjustment. Believe it or not, the majority of firstborns actually fall right into this camp, showing no major lasting behavioral changes. But on the other side, we have a meaningful subset of children who exhibit temporary regression. And look, if your child is in this second group, it can feel completely overwhelming. The research shows this typically looks like sleep problems, maybe increased anxiety or clinginess, potty training accidents, reverting to baby talk, or even sudden spikes in aggression. But hey, the absolute key word here is temporary. These behaviors typically peak right around the birth, and then they naturally settle down over the following months. Building on that whole idea of individual journeys, a 2021 study by Volling and her colleagues found that a child's attachment security to both their mother and their father can actually shift after a sibling is born. And here's the wild part. It can shift in both directions. It isn't this fixed, guaranteed negative outcome. Actually, some children become more securely attached during this transition. What this tells us is that your child's emotional security isn't locked in place, and bringing a baby home doesn't automatically damage your bond with them. It simply kicks off a new period of adjustment. Okay, so who is most likely to struggle? Research by Kolak and Volling in 2013 points us straight to the temperamentally reactive child. This is a child who is naturally highly emotional and incredibly sensitive to disruptions in their environment. And let's be real, if you have a child like this, you probably already know it for sure. They just feel things deeply and they react strongly when their routine gets messed up. The data shows these specific kids are the most sensitive to the massive disruption of a new baby arriving. Understanding this is a total game changer because it helps you predict if your child might just need a little extra grace during the transition.
But listen, the child's temperament is really only half the story. The other half? Well, it's you. A really powerful 2019 study notes that the trajectories of depressive symptoms for both mothers and fathers predict family risk and the older child's emotional and behavioral problems. So the absolute crucial point here is that a parent's own emotional state directly shapes the child's adjustment. And notice it says paternal in there too. Father's mental health matters just as much here. The practical takeaway from this science is incredibly validating for you guys. Managing your own stress, actually trying to drink your coffee while it's at least somewhat warm, and taking care of your own mental health isn't selfish. It directly helps your older child adjust to the new baby.
It's a pretty direct cause and effect. High parental stress leads to a higher risk of emotional and behavioral problems for the firstborn. But you have a secret weapon here, supportive co-parenting. The research shows that a united, warm, cooperative parenting team acts as a literal, measurable protective buffer for the child, especially for those temperamentally reactive kids we just talked about. How you and your partner work together to handle the stress of the newborn and, the inevitable stray Lego you step on at 2 a.m., that directly shields your older child.
All right, so we know the science, the temperament factors, and the power of teamwork. Let's move into our parent action guide, proactive steps you can take right now.
Here is your proactive playbook. First up, preempt and narrate. Before and after the birth, talk to your older child. Say things like, the baby is gonna cry a lot and need me, and you are still my big kid that I love just as much. Second, protect short daily one-on-one time. The research shows that the predictability of these just us moments matters way more than the length of time. Literally, 10 dedicated minutes is magic. Third, give them a real role. Have them fetch diapers or sing to the baby. Building their confidence is a fantastic way to beat jealousy. And fourth, tag team as parents. Agree on how you're going to respond to behaviors and actively work to protect each other's rest and mood.
Now, when those regressions do happen, and remember, they are totally common for a lot of kids, your mindset is absolutely everything. You need to accept the regression calmly. If your fully potty-trained 4-year-old suddenly has an accident, or starts using baby talk, or constantly wants to be carried around like an infant, they are not manipulating you, I promise. They aren't trying to make your life harder. That behavior is a direct bid for reassurance. It's just their way of asking, am I still safe? Do you still love me now that this tiny new person is here? Because it's a bid for reassurance, we really need to draw a strict line on how we react. You absolutely want to do this. Meet those bids for connection with genuine warmth. Indulge the baby talk for a quick minute, offer the big hug. Because when you meet it warmly, the phase actually fades faster. But please avoid the common traps. Don't do this. Never compare the siblings. Try to avoid saying things like, you need to be good for the baby, because that just builds resentment. And most importantly, never ever withdraw your warmth or affection as a punishment for their jealousy or regression. Now, I want to provide a very honest, guilt-free caveat based on the clinical research. While temporary regressions are completely normal, there is a threshold where you should absolutely seek a professional's guidance. You should definitely consult a professional if the older child's distress is severe and lasts for many months without getting any better. You should also seek help if there's a loss of previously mastered skills that simply don't return over time, or, of course, if they display any aggression that risk the physical safety of the new baby. Look, the goal of this explainer is to support common expected adjustment fears, not to ask you to handle clinical disorders all on your own. There's absolutely no shame in getting support. Supporting a child through those big transition fears is exactly what our sponsor excels at. Fear Me Not helps kids conquer fears through science-backed play. Bringing a new sibling home is a massive transition, yes, but as the data clearly shows us, it doesn't have to be a crisis. It's just a period of shifting attachments, a few growing pains, and profound new connections. So armed with the knowledge that your own calm teamwork is their greatest shield, I'm going to leave you with this question. Instead of bracing for a crisis, how will your family choose to grow together?